A majority of American voters disagree with the NFL players who have chosen to kneel during the playing of the national anthem as a form of protest, according to a new Quinnipiac poll. On an issue that has sharply divided sports fans and the country as a whole, the poll found, by a margin of 5,243%, that voters did not approve of the players' actions, which have drawn the ire recently of President Donald Trump. But the poll also found wide gaps based on gender, race, age and political affiliation. 57% of men disapproved of the protests while women were evenly divided. 2/3 of young voters approved of the protests, while 62% of voters 65 and older disapproved. Black voters approved 7,918%, 60% of white voters disapproved and Hispanic voters were evenly divided. Republicans disagreed with the protests by an 899 margin, while 75% of Democrats supported them. Independent voters were split with 51% in favor and 45% opposed. One thing that is interesting is women are split right down the middle, said Tim Malloy, assistant director of the Hamden-based Quinnipiac poll. If the question were asked 30 years ago, it might be a different answer. But women are very well schooled in football. They're watching football and you have to draw your own conclusion. On Tuesday, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell wrote in a memo to all 32 teams that everyone should stand during the national anthem and said the league would issue a plan to move past this controversy. Trump responded in a tweet Wednesday morning that it was about time that Roger Goodell of the NFL is finally demanding that all players stand for our great national anthem, respect our country. The protests began in August 2016 when then San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick said he would not stand for the anthem to show pride in a flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color. Kaepernick later cited the fatal shootings of African Americans by police officers as an example. When Quinnipiac polled on the issue in October 2016, 54% of voters disagreed with the anthem protests. A small number of players continued kneeling during the anthem, but the issue was brought to the forefront last month when Trump weighed in and said NFL owners should fire players who protest. The following Sunday, hundreds of players kneeled or locked arms during the anthem with the approval of team owners. The Current reached out to a variety of sports figures after the mass protest and found passionate arguments on both sides of the issue. What they're doing is disrespecting the people that died protecting their freedoms, and they're also disrespecting the cops, said Ted Mancini, president of the West Hartford Youth Football League. Former UConn men's basketball coach Jim Calhoun said he'd support a player's decision to protest, but also acknowledged a growing divide in the country. If a player wanted to protest, I'd have to know his reasons, he said. If he could give me logical reasons, I think you have to let players express themselves. That's who we are as a country right now, and at these times, you make those kinds of expressions. There is something amiss right now, something dividing our country, and I can see it everywhere. While a majority of voters disagreed with the protests, a majority agreed that Trump's comments on the protests were not appropriate. Quinnipiac surveyed 1,482 voters nationwide from October 510, with a margin of error of plus or minus 3 percentage points. Caption: Ariella Botts, 5, of East Hartford, was born with a severe muscular disorder called Nemeline myopathy that requires round-the-clock care from a visiting nurse. Her mother, Rachel, talks about how the service is threatened by a state cutback that would lower the reimbursement from Medicaid. Without the visiting nurses, like Livia Brown, seen caring for Ariella, she would be in a medical foster home or a hospital or long-term care facility, probably at higher cost. Caption: Subscribe and listen to the Capital Watch podcast at iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, TuneIn.